Hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of the Married and Connected podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Alaricki. If you have ever sat at the kitchen table feeling that pit in your stomach that your child is struggling to read, I get it. I've been there. And the school is failing you, experts are failing you. They're telling you, no, this is completely normal. Just wait and see all of that. Then this episode is going to be your lifeline. Russell Van Brocklin, I am thrilled to be sitting down with him because he is also known as the dyslexia professor. Russell is on a mission to flip the script for the 20% of learners who see the world just a little bit differently. He's mastered the art of taking heavy, complex, structured literacy methods and translating them into bite-sized, do it right now actions that actually work. And he is here to show us why generic worksheets usually fail and how simple multi-sensory routines can be the absolute game changer that your child needs. If you want to see real progress before your child's next report card comes in, you are in the right place. Russell, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm super excited about this. As a former teacher, I taught kindergarten through second grade for almost 15 years, and now have two kids. One that has dyslexia and dysgraphia that we didn't get diagnosed until he was a fifth grader, because even as a teacher, the school kept telling me, no, this is developmentally appropriate. He's fine. It's fine. Just wait. He'll grow out of it, blah, blah, blah. And I kept saying, no, I'm a teacher too. Like, I know this is wrong. This is not normal. And now I have a 5-year-old that I'm fairly certain is possibly dyslexic. So, how did you get started in this, and what can you tell parents that are a lot like me?
Well, it started out when I was in college and I was finishing up, and I wanted to know how laws were created. Not some class I wanted to know, so I signed up for the New York State Assembly internship program and I was accepted. Problem is, I showed up, I said, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing level,
Mm.
which means I couldn't do the internship. So they pulled me, they accommodated the living daylights out of me from the speaker's office, pulled me out of the legislative office building, put me in the majority leaders program and council's office that ran the assembly day to day. I walk in, there's three administrative assistants. Okay, I'm like, okay, now I know why I'm here. They also had no idea what to do with an undergrad, so they treated me like a grad student, which was the best internship any undergrad ever had in that ever. So then for the academic portion, I gave an hours long presentation and Q&A instead of the big paper. They wrap all that up, put 15 credits of A minus on it, send it back to the State University of New York Center at Buffalo, who looks at these massive accommodations, say, we don't like this. So we're going to lower your grade from 15 credits of A minus. Guess what they lowered it to?
Oh man, I'm just astounded that they lowered it all. What did they lower it to?
15 credits of F.
No.
Yep. So then, like every other dyslexic before me, I'm going to solve dyslexia. I'm not going to let this happen again. Well, I actually did, but the path was kind of fun. I went to my professors and I said, "Where can I go to where can I force myself to learn to read and write in grad school?" They said, "Well, if you like politics, it's easy. Law school. Well, you read and write more than anybody." So I go
Yeah.
into law school. I audit two classes. First is contracts. The professor comes in. And what they do is they use the Socratic method. If you don't know the exact answer to what they're asking, which is very detailed, very deep, then they'll ask you questions you can't answer to embarrass you until you
Mhm.
eventually adapt. That didn't happen to me. I responded as his equal. He's after me, I go forward after him. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He throws up his arms and said, "Russell, you couldn't be any more correct. In the interest of time, I have to move on to the next case." I learned to read within a month. I learned to write within a couple of years. Then I go back to the New York State Senate and I said, "I want you to fund my dyslexia research program. I solved dyslexia." And they're like, "Well, we don't do that." But they sent me over to the New York State Education Department, which was really skeptical because my senator was the majority leader. They did not like the pressure. So they said, "Where is this out of?" I said, "Buffalo." They said, "Good. We want a SUNY distinguished professor in psychology to evaluate." I said, "No problem." I go out there, there's two. That's it. One just happened to be the one that evaluated me at the beginning to start this craziness.
Mm.
So the state paid for it. It was 20 hours of testing over 3 days with the smartest woman I ever met. And she's beating me up like crazy to make sure this is real. At the end, she said, as I found years before, this kid has a normal reading, writing of the first grade level. When his writing system is turned on, it's about the 70th percentile of entering grad students.
Wow.
Yeah, then it goes back down again. She said it's based on going from part of the brain that doesn't work to the part that does. Here's the 5 pages explaining it. I go back to the education department. They weren't expecting this. So
No,
then
of
I,
course not.
so then they said I have to connect it with current research. So I go and I speak to Dr. Collins, the only one that makes any sense. I took his stuff from mild dyslexia to severe dyslexia. Supposed to take years. I got his approval in less than 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then I just don't go back to the education department. I enter a university-wide competition, get 15,000. I go back to my old school district and I said, I'm back.
Yeah.
I told them what's going on, and they said, we want this outside of the school. I said, give me your best. Just so everybody knows, I wanted students like me, highly motivated, highly intelligent, juniors and seniors in high school. Her name was Michaela. Michaela was at the 8th grade level. On her GRE, she scored in the 0 percentile. 5 months later, she scored in the 50th. I screwed up. I didn't get it to the 70th. That's where I was. So then the next year, the next one they gave me was Adam. His writing was so bad, Dr. Lichka wanted him banned from college. His post
Wow.
test was the 70th percentile. Transferred. So then the state decided to fund me. Here was the fun part. It all went to the school district. The teachers, her name is Susan Ford, the best teacher they had. This is best of everything. It took her less than 4 hours to learn the process. She rewrote it. One class period a day for the school year. Kids went from mostly from the 0 percentile and then graduate records exam writing to the average to the 30th to 70th percentile of entering grad students. They all went on to college. All graduated GPAs at 2.5 to 3.6. Cost to New York State taxpayers under $900 a kid. My best competition at the time was Landmark College. We were 3x as successful as they were for less than 1% of the cost. And that's how I got started.
Why has your system not been adopted by the entire United States and the public school system? I mean, this as a former teacher, I mean, just looking at this, like 1 in 5 kids has dyslexia. Why is this not being taught everywhere?
You put your finger on the little problem I had when we went to present this in the International Dyslexia Association's New York City branch in '06. When I presented it, I got two reactions. The first reaction I got from professors were two of your students increased to the 70th percentile of entering grad students. We don't care. We want the craft of research. And I was like, the craft of what? The craft of research. The Craft of Research. It was a book published in 1995 by the University of Chicago to teach PhD students how to write their doctoral dissertations. It has since sold over 1 million copies. And I was like, you want me to teach this to dyslexic high school kids when no private school in the country deals with this because it's too advanced? They said, yes. And then I presented what we did to the teachers. They said, fantastic. Does that work for normal kids? I said, absolutely not. And they said, come back when it does. And that took me
Wow.
8 years, 8 more
Yeah.
years. So then I come back. And so just so you know what the secret was, this is the top book in my field. Are you familiar with it?
Okay, so just for our listeners out there, Overcoming Dyslexia, the second edition by Sally Shaywitz, an MD, and
Yes.
Jonathan Shaywitz. No, never heard, never seen that.
Okay. Well, they're from Yale. This is the number one
Okay.
book in my field.
Okay.
That's dyslexia.
Okay. So it's a non-impaired, has basically two spots in the brain. Dyslexia has one spot that's bigger in the prefrontal cortex area.
Yeah. So let's make it real simple for your audience. The back part of the dyslexic brain has next to nothing. The back part of the
Okay.
gen ed brain has massive activity. The
Okay.
front part of the dyslexic brain has about 2.5 times the activity.
Okay.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you in about 10 minutes
Yeah.
how to actually work with your 5-year-old. I will tell you, if you weren't a teacher, I would say absolutely not.
Okay.
If you're most parents, I would not attempt this until the kid's at least 6. If
Okay.
they're having any trouble, 7.
Okay.
Okay, but teachers can do it at 5. Just understand it's going to take forever because the
Okay.
older the kid is in my system, the quicker they pick it up.
Makes
So, would
sense.
you like to make up a name for your 5-year-old or use her actual name?
He can, yeah, we talk about our kids on here all the time. So Zane is his name.
Zane. Okay. First
Yeah.
thing I need to find out about Zane. What is his speciality? What is his area of extreme interest and ability?
Math. He's doing
Okay.
math at pre-K. He's in pre-K right now and he does like multiplication tables. He's doing math at like a second grade level.
Okay. So, what I'm about to do is show you how to solve his writing issues in 10 minutes. I'm going to ask you 2 questions that I give to 7-year-olds. They're not trick questions. Almost every adult messes up. If you answer them exactly, this will work. If not, you're going to get incredibly confused and then have an epiphany on what dyslexia really is.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready? Okay, so we got Zane, and his speciality is math. So the first thing you're going to do is pull out a laptop computer,
Okay.
not an iPhone, not an iPad, and certainly not handwriting. Actually, if it comes down to it, take every writing instrument and throw it in the trash.
Okay.
It's going to be a real laptop computer with a real keyboard. And you're going to type out hero plus sign. What are we talking about? And then Zane's going to copy that until it's correct.
Copy it how?
He's going to type out underneath what you typed.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
you typed hero plus sign. What are we talking about? And he's going to copy it right underneath. And you're going to go, well, kids aren't supposed to copy. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, Default Writing Strategy of Copying, Visualization, and Narrative. $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Education Department. It's okay. All right.
Okay.
So he's going to type that out until it's correct. Then we're going to swap out hero for his name. So we got Zane. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Zane plus sign. What are we talking about? Then we're going to go to a list of 10 things that Zane really, really likes, and then 10 things he really, really dislikes.
Okay.
And the first thing he really, really likes is math. So we got Zane plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to swap out what are we talking about for math. So
Okay.
now we got Zane plus sign math.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to ask you 2 of the simplest questions you've ever been asked. I give these to 7-year-olds. If
Okay.
you answer them exactly, this will work. If not, you're going to get really confused and then
Okay.
have an epiphany. Do you think I can fool you?
Probably.
Okay. Just remember exactly what I asked. So we got
Okay.
Zane plus sign math. We have to swap out the plus sign for a word. Here's my question. Does Zane like or dislike math?
Like.
Excellent. You're one of the few people that actually got that correct. Now, give me swap out the plus sign. What's the 3-word sentence?
Zane like math.
Do you realize you're the first person that got that right in over a month?
What does everybody else say? Zane likes math?
Yes, that's exactly what they do. So just so most parents know what would
Mm-hmm.
happen, if you got the first part right, you go Zane like math. So then what happens is we go again for those watching to the back part of the brain where you have this massive neural activity, and then adults will then automatically add the S. So we got
Mm,
Zane likes math.
yeah.
And that's incorrect because that's not what I asked. Zane has nothing going on in the back part of his brain, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't, no matter what you do to try to teach him, it's not going to work. So what we have to do is we have to go from the back part of the brain where we got nothing going on to the front part where we have 2.5 times the neural activity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, according to Yale, they're even nice enough to tell us what we're doing. That's word analysis followed by articulation, just for the teachers out there. When I did my initial program, I did articulation and a little bit of word analysis. So to make it adaptive for everybody, we swapped it over to word analysis followed by articulation. And yes, that took me 8 years to figure out and to prove. That's
Mm,
ridiculous, but that's
yeah.
what it's like being on the edge of dyslexia research. So now we
Sure.
got just so now what we have Zane like math. How do we
Hmm.
get Zane to add the S? I'm sure you're familiar with Orton Gillingham, the
Hmm.
multi-sensory approach. So just so what
Yes.
everybody knows, I'm going to give you an example of how they could just work with Zane real easy. I'm going to give an example of the Windward School on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. They will take Zane in, work with him for 4 to 5 years, and they would send him back to where he is as one of the most educated kids in the world. Okay, that's 75,000 a year for 4 to 5 years just in tuition, and the
Yeah.
teachers, but the teachers' pay sucks
Oh, I'm sure.
because no, it's because there's 4 to 5 students per teacher.
So they're getting a portion of the uh 75,000, but not much, and it's per kid.
Well, I'm just saying the school, that's what the school charges the tuition
Yeah.
compared to public school teachers in New York City. Their pay is absolutely, I take pay and benefits and put it together. There's is absolutely horrible. If they were paid proportionally, that you'd be charging like 200 grand a kid and nobody could afford to go.
Mm,
So I'm just
sure.
saying
Yeah.
that's what it takes, 4 to 5 years. Here's how we speed that up because we're going to use modern science. So the
Okay.
first thing we have to do in the front part of the brain is word analysis. So I'd ask Zane to read what he wrote out loud. Zane like math. Then I'd ask Zane, does that sound generally correct? He's going to say no. I'm going to say, Zane, fix it. Zane likes math. And then we do that for the other 9 likes and 10 dislikes.
Right.
All right. Do you see how that's a simple form of word analysis?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we're going to go because reason one. Give me a simple reason of why Zane likes math.
It's a really good question. I don't know why he likes math, honestly. Um,
Take a wild guess and make it simple because he's 5.
I think it's because he's heard songs that talk about like the math and it's always the same. The numbers are always concrete. They don't ever, like, if I had to guess, it would be like letters are hard because sometimes A says ah, sometimes A says A. How do you know the difference? Whereas 3 plus 4 is always going to equal 7.
Okay. How
So
about
there's
this?
more possible.
How about Zane likes math because he's good at it?
That's possible too.
Okay. Now, can you imagine you're probably going to have a whole bunch of grammar mistakes there?
Sure.
So what we do is we tell Zane to read what he wrote out loud. Does it sound generally correct? He's going to say no. Then we tell him to keep fixing it until it does sound correct. That may be 5, 6, 7 times, but once it sounds correct, you're gonna those horrendous grammar mistakes are now gone. You're left with some little ones and some medium ones. And as a teacher, I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but you've been trained how to deal with that.
Does this work for adults too?
Yes, they pick it up drastically faster.
Yeah, so they can do this exact same process if they feel like
Yes,
they have dyslexia or if they've been diagnosed.
yes.
Okay, awesome.
So
Awesome.
then the next thing is we got the spelling problems, and you probably
Right.
think spelling's hard to fix.
Um, it's probably not, but yes, just for
Well,
time's sake, I would say yes, it probably is.
actually, it's really easy. Here's how you do it. You tell Zane to now to drop a period, and every time he misspells a word, he has to retype the entire thing.
Hmm.
And he's going
Okay.
to he's going to say, "Well, I'm not going to make that mistake." And then he keeps trying harder and harder. Remember, now we're in the front part of the brain. It's
Yeah.
massively chaotic. So you need to force the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. I'll turn that into English later on. But he's going to keep retyping until he gets it right. It's going to be 3 to
Okay.
13 times typically. Then you're going to move on down the list to the next word, and you're going to do the exact same thing. Okay? All
Okay.
the way down the list for the 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Then we're going to keep exactly that, and he's going to retype it. And then we're going to add a second reason with a glue word and. And
Okay.
we're going to go through that same process. Then we're going to go reason one, reason two, and reason three. The first two reasons are kept exactly the same.
Okay.
Okay. And we go all the way down. So just, for a 5-year-old, her name is Angela. She's one of our instructors. She's a certified elementary school teacher in the state of Texas with a 2-year master's degree, 11 years of experience, and she's now a homeschooling mom. It took her 9 months to get her son, August, who's 9, to go through this because she's doing 10 to 15-minute sessions a couple of
Yeah.
times a week. Okay. So with your 5-year-old, this might take you 2 years. Okay. But what it does is it brings your writing level up to around the end of second, beginning third grade level. And also the reading improves because if you can write it, you can read it. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
That does make sense. That does make
Okay.
sense. Okay, so going back to what they're writing, after they write like Zane like math and all the 10 things, then you're adding and or the
Yes.
reason.
And then, yes. And each one, you're going through each part of this, all 20 of them, until it's all spelled correctly and the grammar's decent by asking to read it out loud. Does it sound correct?
Okay.
It's slow as heck,
Yeah.
but it works. Now, if you're talking about a middle school kid, what took August 5 months to do,
Yeah.
they can get through that in a couple of months. For
Yeah.
a high school kid, I've had them get through that in a matter of a day to a couple of days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my
But
16-year-old could do that for in a day.
yes, but now we're going to move on to that's part three of the model. The first part, let's use your 16-year-old as an example. So what's his
Okay.
name?
Mason.
Mason. What's Mason's speciality?
Oh gosh. Probably math as well.
Okay. So I'm going to give you an example of why the speciality is so important. So during the intervention period, you
Mhm.
have to focus on the kid's speciality. Here's an
Okay.
example why. The most motivated kid I ever met with, her name is Casey. She was 10 years old when I met her. She turned 11 over the summertime. She was finishing up fifth grade, reading at the second grade level. I never saw this before, Casey. I'll never see this again. You will never see this again, nor anybody you ever know. She's a one off edge case. Casey was fanatically interested in Theodore Roosevelt, and she insisted on doing reading first. So I assigned her this little book,
The
The
Rise of Theodore
Rise of
Roosevelt.
the, oh, 900
This is
pages.
that 900. Wow.
Your peers tell me this is 10th grade to first year college level, depending on who you ask.
Sure.
Nobody told Casey this. Nobody understood it. She comes from a lower middle class family in the Midwest. She goes up to her room, shuts the door for 3 hours a night for the next 6 months. Most of the days during the summertime. She's literally working on this 8, 10 hours a day in the summertime. At the end of that time, she knows you could flip to this random page, point to that random word, and she would tell you the dictionary definition. She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for 15 minutes a week.
Wow.
Okay. So when people say reading can't happen, I'm like, yeah, right. Well, a 10-year-old can figure it out. We can. So that's not the point. The point is her mom asked, what happens if we go from something she loves to something she hates? So I assigned her a book that was harder that she hated, and it
Yeah.
transferred over. But here's the whole point of why I'm spending all this time. I asked Casey, what happens when we move from a book that you loved to something you hated? What happened to your motivation? She said it dropped about 50%.
Hmm.
Most kids drop 75 to 90% outside their speciality, which in schools is about everything. So during that intervention period, we have to focus on the speciality. The second thing, if we ask Mason, when you're trying to think about math, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? He's going to say yes.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is to force the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as the measurable output. How do we do that?
Yeah.
What we do is, first of all, when you're talking about that, let me give you an example. So I want you to think, if you were given this assignment, let's say Bill Gates came and said, we'll give you all the help you need. We're going to pay you $1 million to write a 10th grade term paper, and I want it done within a week. You can ask no help. You have access to a university library. Would you find this of any difficulty? What effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American civil rights movement of the 1960s? Would that be hard for you?
Yes, because I have zero motivation for that.
Well, you got a $10 million check waiting there. Okay. I'm not
That would
saying
be the only motivating factor, but it would still be difficult.
no, but could you just, on those instructions, could you just go in and do it?
I probably could because I don't have dyslexia. But for my son, there's no way that my
No.
son
But
gets.
this is I'm making a point. But could you just go in with those instructions, go to the library, and knock out a tenth grade paper?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you ask your son to do that, he would be like asking him to grab fog.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
there because it's going big picture and eventually getting to the details.
Yeah.
Okay. We're scatterbrained in the front. We can't do this. So what we do is we flip it. We start
Mm.
extremely precisely and then we eventually go out. Okay.
Okay.
So what we do is we ask the question, what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? Now Mason knows exactly what to do. He goes to his biography, he reads around that time period, and then he answers the question.
Sure.
That answer will then allow him to get another question, which will allow him to get an answer, to get a question, get an answer, get a question. That forces the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the secret is really simple. During the intervention period, we start off in the speciality. Then we go from the specific to the general, then word analysis followed by articulation. Parents want to know how successful that is. The example I like to get, I'm having a book come out soon called "If You Write, You Can Read." All right. And for my part of it, it's about Kimberly. I met her December 27th, 2024. Kimberly has just a few college classes. She's a very religious homeschooling mom. And what happened is the state of Ohio, a few weeks before we met, she spent $700 and they tested her kids. Her four Gen Ed kids were reading brilliantly, but her fifth grade son was reading horrifically, and his writing was even worse. His name is August. I'm sorry, his name was darn. My problem with dyslexia is names. Um, Darn, it drives me nuts. I can't remember it. I had a concussion 16 years ago. Anyway, her son's name is Reed. Okay.
Okay.
So Reed was reading at the 11th percentile. He was writing at the 4th percentile. I worked with her for half an hour a week for the next 8 months. She worked with him for an hour and a half a week, 3 half-hour sessions. Most parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions. Over the summer, his friends came to him and said, Reed, we want you in school to be with us, come to public school to be with us socially in class. If Kimberly doubled what he was doing, he still would have been placed in special ed, away from his
Mm.
friends, unhappy kid. Well, when he was in beginning of August, called 8.5 months later, he was retested in a public school. His reading jumped from the 11th percentile to the 64th. His writing went from the 4th percentile to the 65th. His grammar went to the 97th percentile. As of April of 2024, he's in mainstream classes, getting mainly A's and B's. That's how powerful this is.
Yeah.
Kimberly did, in less than 9 months, what every parent dreams of.
Sure. Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
we're dealing with Mason, because what I showed you was how to do basic sentences, which would be treating Mason like an infant.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we're going to do advanced body paragraphs.
Okay.
So, and then the technique I'm going to show you, almost nobody outside of a PhD candidate understands and can actually show you how to improve your writing.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to do an evolved form of word analysis followed by articulation. So besides math, what is Mason really into?
Tennis.
Tennis. Okay. So let's say we wanted him to write about maybe does he have is there a famous tennis player he really likes?
No, he just really enjoys the sport. Doesn't really follow anybody,
Okay. So
like
so
people.
we okay. So let's say um, I'm just going to just pull out. Okay. So in that case, I'm just going to give you a
You
general
can
idea of
just
how we would go about do this, and then you can apply it to him later. All right.
okay.
Usually I use biographies, but I just can't think of one off the top of my head. So I'm going
Do
to show you this process. All right. So first of all, I'm going to start off with a movie review, and
okay.
you're going to say this makes no sense. But as most dyslexic solution comes, they look like they're coming out of left field, and then
Okay.
they make sense pretty quickly. So here's what I need from you: 3 questions that you need to answer. First of all, the movie has to be one you think is one of the best of all time.
Okay.
Number two, you know it intimately. Number three, everybody's seen it. What's the name of that movie?
Gosh. Everybody's seen that I know intimately. And let's go with like Fast and the Furious.
Which one?
Gosh, let's do the first one.
Okay. All right. Now, do you see how long that took you?
Yeah, forever.
Would you be surprised that Mason would do that instantly?
I've never tried that. Would he do that instantly?
If once he understood the process, yes, because I'm just going to tell you what's going on. We're
Yeah,
now dealing with the front part of the brain.
that makes sense.
You're now in my sandbox. You're now in Mason's sandbox. This freaks out some parents where once the kid understands it and has got their brain somewhat organized, they produce much better answers in a fraction of the time. And the parents are like, they're kids, teenagers, and I have a master's degree. I said,
Yeah.
yes. Now you're playing in my sandbox. Now you're playing in theirs. There is an advantage of being dyslexic. Kind of freaks
Yeah.
people out sometime. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll go into that advantage in a second, but now I'm going to start showing you how to do really advanced stuff. So when
Okay.
you're thinking about Fast and the Furious, I need
Okay.
you to reduce the entire movie to a one word universal theme that best represents the movie in your opinion.
Oh gosh. Friendship.
Friendship. Okay. Now, Mason would have been boom, just like that.
Okay.
Okay. So
That's
friendship.
wild.
Oh, well, now, just so you know where we're going, I'm going to show you how to do the advanced paragraphs. Then I'm going to show you how to actually get these kids so they can actually get a job in the future being knowledge workers.
Yeah.
Okay. Because dyslexic AI, really unfair advantage. All right. So, first thing that we're going to do is you're using the word friendship. So, what we would do is we'd take all the main actors and you would ask, how did they do with the universal theme of friendship? How did the director do? How did the screenwriter do? Then you write your review. People will then decide, do they want to see the movie or not? If they do want to see the movie, they would then know exactly what to look for and for what character and what to look for. You have enhanced their experience, not ruined
Mhm.
it by saying this happened, this happened, and this happened.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the problem. You can't write a very laser focused message with friendship because it's too broad of a brush. I mean, back in the 1990s when we had just big few networks and a few big papers, yeah, you just blasted out to everybody. Friendship was
Hmm.
great. Now we
Hmm.
have to be much more precise. So how do we do
Hmm.
that? I'm going to traumatize some of your audience just for a moment. Some others will be happy because we have to go back to high school English and Shakespeare.
Mm.
All right. Why? Because when it comes to communicating in English, Shakespeare is generally considered the top one ever. So I want
Hmm.
you to think back to any high school play you did in Shakespeare. You had a hero. The
Hmm.
hero would want to do something based on one or more universal themes. Then there'd be an ultimate villain who is a character, a concept, bunch of concepts, a universal theme, or a bunch of them all put together in some way that would try to prevent the hero from accomplishing their goal. They would start to have problems, is a conflict in Act One. It would accelerate to go crazy in Act Two, resolve Act Three. Sound familiar?
Hmm. Yep.
We got to simplify that. So let's say that Mason's real, just for argument's sake, is really into Fast and Furious. So we're going to
Hmm.
use that script. You can do this in middle school, high school, college, grad school. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do an advanced form of word analysis, then articulation. So we're going to have the hero, which is whatever the hero is. Then we're going to tell we've already done, let's assume we show them how to do basic body paragraphs in another course. So now we're going to tell Mason to write out as many paragraphs as possible on the Fast and the Furious. And he's going to do that. Then we're going to have what I like to call very soon a come to Jesus moment about showing him how to read and what
Hmm.
work needs to get done. But just so you know, that's coming. So then when we're done with that, we're going to take every sentence and he's going to tell me what the most important word is. And he's going to type out the most important word for each sentence. Now we're having that come to Jesus moment if I can help them or not. Do you still find that Mason still has issues with reading?
Yeah.
Okay, we're about to fix that. Understanding that we're assuming that he's really into Fast and Furious. It's something else we can you just apply it to that. We're in what they're interested in, and we're teaching them from the specific to the general. Here's my question. This is a very important scientific question. Part of the dyslexic brain is 2.5 times overactive. First thing is word analysis. Here's
Okay.
my very deadly serious question. How can you apply word analysis if you don't know exactly what the word means? And I mean exactly.
You can't.
You can't. So what I tell the kids, what you're going to now do is you're going to go to Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, and you are looking over his shoulder,
Okay.
okay? Or some other responsible adult you designate. He's going to go to Merriam-Webster's Online Dictionary, pick his definition, type out the word, and then type out the definition. Okay? Not
Okay.
copying and pasting, not copying and pasting. And he's going to be doing this a lot. What I tell them is at some point, you're going to do this so many times, you know exactly what that word means. In your
Mm,
bones, you know. I was dealing with Casey when she was in advanced sixth grade. We're going through this. She went through, I call it disorganization. She went through multiple levels. She went through 211 words in less than 10 minutes, knew exactly what every word said. She said, this is the best one, and she could have debated in college.
wow.
Okay, we are developing a word list of hundreds and hundreds of evolved words. If the kid doesn't want to do it, here's how I deal with it. Do you remember when I go to the dislikes? The first one is the chore they hate the most. So for
Yeah.
Mason, what's the chore he freaking
The
hates?
dishes.
Okay, so here's what you do. If he refuses to do it, you literally have your younger kids make a mess of the dishes and he has to clean them.
Okay.
Okay. And not only that, you can bring him over to people you know really well. He can do their dishes. All
Okay.
right. And you can just have him keep messing him up, have him keep redoing it. What do you think the look on his face is going to
Oh,
be?
he's going to be pissed.
Yes, and you're videotaping this
Okay.
because you'll be laughing about it later. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and then eventually, it's a simple thing. Do we? You can say, hey, we can do this all night.
Yeah.
Are you going to do this or are you going to come back and do the right? Most kids will do it without that. If occasionally they'll need to remind it. Why? Because because it's just without it, I can't help you. So then you type out the words, you type out the definition. So you type out the definition for each one. Then what you do is you're then going to ask him which one is the best one that best represents the best represents what the hero wants to do. And then that's going to be your base universal thing. Problem is, it's still a broad brush. So then we go into the thesaurus and we put that word in and we come up with 5 synonyms, 10 synonyms, the whole level, multiple levels. It's up to the teacher and the kid. All right. And then for each one, you type out the word and you go to Merriam-Webster's Online Dictionary, pick your definition, type it out. At some point, I don't know if it's 5, 10, 15, 20, I have no idea. He's going to remember that word forever. Now, when I have this done when kids are 10 to 12, they're studying for their SATs 5, 6 years later. They don't
Yeah.
have to remember any words. They remember 70, 80% of the definition. They go in and they do great, drives their friends crazy. Okay. So you're going to do that. Then you're going to get what you're looking for is when we're going through the 5 or 10 synonyms or whatever it is, you're looking for the one that best matches the definition in his head.
Okay.
That's going to be your universal thing. And
Yep.
then with that, we can now laser focus to pick out the ultimate villain. I start off with a person or a character. I eventually move to a concept. I put those three together as the basic sense. You see how that's an advanced form of word analysis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to do articulation. We're going to go because reason 1, 2, and 3, the best reasons he can come up with. Each of those reasons we're going to simplify to a simple universal theme. Then we're going to go to the script of the Fast and Furious, and I want a quote from that simple universal theme that deals with it exactly, a one sentence quote, one from the beginning, one from the end. With that universal theme, it makes finding the quote so much easier. Then we take
Yeah.
those two quotes and we put them together.
Okay.
Now, if you have two quotes per paragraph, this prevents this from being a BS paper.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So now that we have those two quotes, then we form the topic sentence from those quotes.
Ah, okay.
Now, for something that will help you improve your writing, have you ever noticed when you were in grad school that going from a topic sentence to your data, it didn't flow very well?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of applying a warrant to a body paragraph?
No.
Okay. Do you know what a warrant is?
No.
Okay. If you're outside of a PhD candidate, you don't know. This is a central part of the craft of research. A warrant connects the topic sentence with the data through answering a how and why question.
Okay.
Now, in our paid courses, we add a few other steps, but that's essentially the main part of it. When a professor goes through that and sees it and they go, oh, that kid's writing a warrant, using a warrant, it must be at the college level. All right. It's taken very seriously. So that's
Makes
how you
sense.
do. And do you see how that is also an advanced form of articulation with how we did, okay. So you put those together. Now, problem is parents eventually have this idea that they want their kids to get a job.
Yeah.
So for either of your kids, are they head and hands kids or intellectual kids that do like the university thing where they like working with their hands? Which one do you think they fall under?
No, Mason is very much he likes working with his hands, but he won't go to university. He'll probably do a trade school.
Okay, now things have changed. Just so you know, with the fastest way to a six-figure income now is for him to go to the local community college and get trained as an electrician.
Yeah.
Okay, and then join the union. And then
Yep.
after he's done with the apprenticeship, he's all set. So what I just told you, that should get him through a community college.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's say he eventually wants an option to go on
Mhm.
to a 4-year school, because I'll tell you what happens to my kids that have done that. They go on, and in their 20s, they're just raking it in. I've had a number of kids I taught, all those data centers they're going out there.
Yeah.
One of them went and he said, yeah, I'm fully trained. I'm unionized. I will do it. But he gave them this insane salary. And they accepted it.
And I'm
They,
not
they,
surprised.
they were literally told, is the guy qualified? Absolutely. But he wants an insane, get him out here. Okay.
Okay. Well,
He took
there you
what
go.
the offer was and he added 50% and they paid it. All right. But eventually, then they start telling me in their 30s, this isn't so easy anymore. The late 30s to early 40s. I don't know if I can do this until I'm like, 70 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's hard on your
said,
body.
so then I say, okay, let's get you to go back to university so you can become a foreman. Okay. So what we're looking at for your kids who want to go on, and besides just becoming a foreman, to be a knowledge worker. So I want you to think about what you do. You were a teacher for years. I
Mhm.
want you to think. You had how many kids per class typically?
Usually around 27.
Okay. And then you had to get 27 kids to start from wherever they were. A bunch were probably socially promoted, and get them at the end of the year to pass some bunch of exams. And they wouldn't do it. For all of them would find some way not to do it. You had to figure all that out, and you were mostly very successful year in,
Yeah.
year out. Sound
Yep.
familiar?
Yep.
So you knew, because now I'm talking about how to use the artificial intelligence. And just so everybody knows, when ChatGPT came out with its $200 a month plan in December of 24, I bought it that day. I'm one of those mythical 10x people who does 10 times what they typically can do in an hour. All right. So the big thing with AI, and I don't care what happens to it, this is where it's going to stay. You have to know what good looks like.
Yeah.
In your bones, you have to know. And then when you see it and it's a mess, you have to know how to fix it.
Right.
That skill is what we have to teach our kids to just do really well, because without that, they can't use AI. With that, if they know nothing about it, training them in it is not hard to do.
That's
But that
true.
skill is so rare. So this is where dyslexics have a really big advantage. Do you remember when I went back and I told you we're going to go from the specific to the general? And once
Yeah.
they answer a question, that answer has to give them another question.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so when you're looking at the craft of research, the biggest issue that we have is a problem statement. So I'm going to throw a really hard question on you that you probably can't answer. Maybe you
Okay.
can.
Okay.
I want you to think of what needs to change a very specific problem in education. Something very specific, not broad, very specific, that needs to get changed. And that if you could answer that, come up with a good solution, it would make a big difference. Do you know what's that problem? What's that problem?
I would say that legislators who make the rules have never been in a classroom or have not been in a classroom in the last 10 years. And so they're making rules and
Oh, no, no, no.
regulations.
I'm talking very specific,
Oh, probably
super
not specific
specific.
enough though. No, that would be my only specific thing is the solution would be legislators have to have been in the classroom within the last 10 years.
Okay, but I'm talking about coming up with something like in this classroom, if we did X, we could make things so much more productive.
There isn't one. There's,
Do you-
I don't know that there's one.
oh, well, there is, but you see how hard this is.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bottleneck we're running into that I just wanted to demonstrate, you have a master's degree, you're a very competent teacher. And if you're a teacher, as I said, you're taking these 27 kids, you got to make them transformed by the end of the year, and you've done that success. That is more than most knowledge workers will ever do. That's
Yeah.
why if you leave teaching, you can do pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how to come up with a problem statement is the bottleneck, something
Mm,
very specific. So, what we do is we take a look at what's in the journal articles because we have to get kids to get published.
yeah.
All right. And in those, the AI is really good at finding the hole. But to connect that, we have to move from that side this way, and then we have to start off at a point where the kid's super interested and go QA, QA, QA until they meet.
Makes sense.
That's how we do the problem statement.
Yeah.
And it's really once we have that, then the solution is just it's a lot easier to come up with. But that's the hard part. Let me give you an example. I want you to guess how old this student is. He's one of our most advanced students. Uh, his name is Grayson. I'll give you a little hint. He's on the young side.
Okay.
Grayson's not dyslexic in the least. He's in the 99th percentile in math and 99th percentile in science. He wants to go and get his PhD, work at NASA to terraform Mars.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, this is, as I said, he's on the young side. So to do that, we have to get him published. I found the perfect journal. I even found the gaping hole that we have to work with. So his parents are working with him on the advanced paragraphs now, and we're going to eventually walk him through the entire thing. We have to get him past a desk rejection at the journal, which means you haven't done everything perfectly to set it up. It's not, make sure it's good enough. Then they send it off to a peer reviewer who will reject it and give him an ocean of stuff he has to fix. Then I met on another podcast a gentleman who's on the board of directors of one of our top 10 technical universities. At the right time, we will use him to introduce Grayson to a professor, and Grayson will say, "I want to work with you to finish up getting this published. I was rejected because of this from a reviewer," and then he will get him published, and then he'll be all set. How old do you think Grayson is?
9.
He's 10.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so I just gave you the framework of how to go through that. Now, when it comes to AI. Parents are freaking out about AI.
Yeah.
They're scared if the kids don't know what to do. All you need to understand is the following. What does good look like? How do you fix it? Okay. In whatever they're into. Okay. They got 4 years to college to figure things out. I don't have my kids start using AI until after they can do those advanced body paragraphs the whole way with a light version of the craft of research, thesis statement, and conclusion. I don't even have them look at it. Once they do, and the general trends are set up because certain models are good at certain things. I use ChatGPT 5.5 extended thinking to actually make sure we know what we're looking for, and then to write out the prompt. And then I have Claude Cowork 4.6. 4.7 is a piece of garbage. 4.6 or 4.6 extended thinking actually do the work. And then we go back and forth. Okay. How do kids, I'm 52, so if you're in college, you're a kid. How do we get the kids understand what's going on? If they don't know exactly, they're given a task, do a deep research report. I generally have Claude do it over OpenAI, and I'm looking for 3,500 to 5,000 words. Read the actual report and then use it as something to go against. Go back and forth until you get that down. Okay. Once that happens, all right, it'll take about 6 to 12 months for you to develop the idea of what good looks like in your
Yeah.
job. And
Yeah.
then from there, you're very valuable. So just, this is a little where this is going. There was a guy whose company creates information. Some AI is supposed to put out of business. They started off for the year 2026 with a budget of $700,000. They're now at 7 million. They expect by
Wow.
the end of the year they will be spending more on AI than on salaries.
That's insane.
Well, that's where we're going. If you can do this, if you know the craft of research, then you're going to be one of those people. Currently, this is about a month old, but the data was taking 146 days to find somebody. There's 3.1 jobs per person that really knows the AI really well, and they're commanding salaries in the multiple six figures.
Wow. That's
Yes.
wild. That's
So,
wild.
so I just gave you the general connection of how to get this. So, in less than an hour, I showed you how to do the sentences, the advanced body paragraphs, and the connection, how we do the really advanced stuff. And I'll let you know, parents are coming to me saying, "Isn't Grayson kind of an outlier?" I said, "Well, yes, he's in the top 1%." But we do
Yeah.
that a lot with 12, 13, 14 year olds, and we move them way ahead because what we went through in school hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed much since the 1950s. Not really.
Not really.
The
Yeah.
engineering science my uncle did is the same engineering science they're doing now, just updated.
Yep.
But we have to accelerate our educational system if these kids are going to have any chance of getting a job. So it's
Yeah.
going to be very K-shaped. You're either going to be doing really well or
Or not
I don't
well at
even
all.
want to think about it. So
Yeah.
that's just a general framework. And yes, getting up to getting a kid to get rejected by a reviewer, not just rejected by an action. That's how far we go.
I like it. That's a good plan. Um, I want to get your take on this.
Mhm.
Do you think that kids who have dyslexia, typically a lot of them don't like to read? Do you think it's truly that they don't like to read, or do you think that it's one of those things where it's hard for them and so it's a motivating factor?
Dyslectics are actually superior readers to most gen ed students.
Really?
Really? Yeah. It's the fact that you're. Let me just explain the problem with school again. Let's go back to the science.
Yeah,
Okay,
with
the
the
school
brain.
is designed for this. So let me ask you. Let's go back to when you were in school. If you did two
Mhm.
things, if you planned properly, if you set up enough time to study, and then you worked really hard, you did either well or really amazing or somewhere in between. You
Mhm.
stop doing that, it went off the rails. Then you go back, it just works. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
You ask the dyslexic has nothing going on in the back part of the brain, which is typically kindergarten through the first 2 years of college. We could try forever and it doesn't work until we're eventually taught the right way. But once we are, let me give you a little example. How would you like to see if I can turn you dyslexic?
okay. Let's see.
Okay, I just want to let you know what's going to happen. You're either going to find reading this material really hard, or you're going to be like, what's the problem? Okay, let
Okay.
me give you some background. Here's the book. Post-war Japan is History.
Okay.
Now, I know that you have a tremendous your desire to learn about this, or am I being very sarcastic?
Very sarcastic.
Okay. The first essay was written by Professor Dower of MIT, who won the Pulitzer and won the National Book Award.
Okay.
The question, I'm just going to go through a couple of sentences. I know this is going to be really dry, but this is one of the most profound things so that you understand the advantage of being neurodiverse. Okay, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
What do you honestly think of the title? Peace and Democracy in Two Systems, External Policy and Internal Conflict by Professor John W. Dower.
It's too long and it's very dry.
Okay. And this sentence, I need you just to tell me what it means in simple English.
Okay.
Okay. Ever since Japan's seclusion was ruptured by the Western nations in 1853, domestic and international politics have been interwoven for the Japanese.
Ever since the West jacked up Japan, their political systems have never been the same.
Okay. Slogans used to mobilize succeeding generations convey this interconnection.
I don't know. You lost me.
Okay. So if I keep going and it's more and more detailed, you pretty much say I'm going to lose you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go one more sentence just to prove it?
No.
Okay. Now, what if I were to tell you that when I was sitting in Japan taking this course and
Yeah.
everybody else came to Japan wanting to take this? What if I told you I was the only one that thought that was a joke to read and I'm dyslexic?
But was it a motivating factor or like was there a motivational factor that
Everybody
you did
there
research?
chose this course.
Interesting.
Okay, no, I'm going to do one more just to make the point. Okay, because this is something. This is one of the biggest insights that nobody gets about reading.
Yeah.
All right, one more. Thus, the forces that eventually overthrew the fetal regime in 1868 rallied around the cries, "Revere the emperor, expel the barbarians." Does this make any sense to you?
I mean, very little.
Okay,
I
so let
understand
me.
the words. I just like,
Yes. So now, do you want me to show you what the brutality of what it's like to be dyslexic?
okay. Yeah.
Imagine I had this power. Read that entire 30-page essay, tell me exactly what it means, or we'll take your house.
I mean, I'll do it, but I'm not going to like it.
Can you do it?
It would be very, very difficult.
But you think you could actually do it? Because I'll tell you, most people like you, they get confused and they just can't do it. And then I say, well, we take your car away.
I would ha-
Maybe.
the way that I would have to do it is I would literally have to take it line by line and do exactly like summarize that line and then summarize that line and then summarize and it would take forever, but
Right. If you were told you can't do that, what's the answer? I don't care. What is it? Can you begin to feel the frustration?
yeah, it's very frustrating.
Okay. Now you're a full grown adult
Yeah.
who's been a full grown adult and mother for over 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Now imagine if you were 7.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's going on is I think that reading that was a joke. It was the easiest thing I ever read in my life.
Mm.
So I am sitting there. The professor's from Harvard. She's taught all his classes, finishing up her doctoral degree. And nobody else could read it. So she's telling them, well, go ahead and do it. And they're going crazy because none of them can understand it. So what's happening is in that first paragraph, there are 17 pieces of information. You're
Mm.
used to processing very quickly, but when you're given that amount of information in such a little bit of space, you're going off the rails.
Yeah.
That's what it's like to be dyslexic. So for the few kids who really want just to finish things up properly, that's the last thing that I teach them. Now, I can tell you that I have done that to a number of kids, and their parents have master's degrees and very serious jobs.
Yeah.
And when they say they couldn't do it, and the kids running through explaining this, they're like, my 16-year-old son is making me feel foolish.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, that's because the front part of their brain's 2.5 times overactive.
Is
So
that also why they're good at gaming? They can do a lot of different things at one time.
I always find the idea of multitasking to be rather absurd in any area, but once you focus on it, when I got 2.5 times the neural activity, it is insanely unfair. That's what
Yeah.
happens to dyslexics when we go to grad school. So let me give you an example. I want you to remember your master's. How many years was that?
I didn't get a master's, but
Okay.
um I went through 5.5 years of college the first time and then 3 years the
Mhm.
second time.
Okay. Now, when you went through it, when your senior classes, were you wondering how some of the people got there?
Yeah, constantly.
All right. So with the dyslexics, once we get to the grad program and we're in our speciality, it is really unfair. Really unfair. So dyslexics can be taught to read that. When I teach this to a room full of New York City reading teachers,
Hmm.
over 70% of them can't get through that first paragraph.
Yeah. No.
Okay. And yet they're like, you teach this to dyslexics. I said, yes. Once properly trained, we are superior readers. We are slower, but we can think of think in orders of magnitude faster. So when I was talking to you about those legal tests, you're supposed to think for 3 to 5 minutes. They're
Mm.
really trying, like that process you had to go through in each sentence. That's what you would have to do. I wouldn't wait a second. I would just pick the answer, and I was right virtually 100% of the time.
Wow.
Okay. It's really unfair once you get, but then when you get it out into the real world, the amount of reading and writing you have to do, I just couldn't do it as a lawyer. That's why I
Yeah.
never graduated.
Makes sense. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
So does that kind of open your ideas up onto what dyslexia really is?
It does, and it's wild because I think that we just summarize it into, the words move on the page, or maybe even off the page, or maybe it's like
Mhm.
reversal of the letters or something like that. Whereas it's so much deeper than that. There's just so much more to it than that.
Right. So what I did is I was walking you through the context
Mm-hmm.
from the craft of research. I showed you the sentences and the advanced paragraphs. That's the context. Then I showed you how we lean towards coming up with a thesis with a problem statement, and you
Yeah.
see how hard that is.
Yeah.
Okay, now most families we don't do let's go get published sort of thing. I would do like a senior thesis or a college level paper
Yeah.
before they go on, and so they know what it is. And when I would have my students go to college, and I would get calls from professors saying, what the heck are these college freshmen doing with the craft of research? I can't get my grad kids to do this. I
Yeah.
said, well, the first paper, did you learn something? And they said, yeah, a little. And that's kind of what freaked me out. I don't They're coming to me talking about problem statements and different ways of looking at journal articles. He's like, I don't have these discussions with doctoral candidates. I said, well, there are an advantage of being dyslexic. And
Yeah.
they're like, I want more of these kids. And I was like, well, yeah, get your state to pass this so we can train them up. This is not hard. And I said, by the way, the tutor was not some private school. It was a mom, which this is 90% a mom thing. And she had some college. And the
Yeah.
professor's just like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, I homeschooled Mason from sixth grade till freshman year. And so I understand these homeschool moms and how they see things a little bit differently, and they want better for their kids than what public school
Yeah.
provides for them.
Okay.
So
Yeah. When you're looking at it, what is the number one determinant of success in school?
whether you passed or not.
Class size.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Now
I
imagine
can see
if
that.
you, now imagine that if we imagine you took four dyslexic kids when
Hmm.
you were teaching, and I said, okay, I'm not giving you 27 of them, I'm giving you four of them. I think you could work miracles too.
Sure. Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
So when you're doing homeschooling, yeah.
makes
So
a lot of sense.
Yeah. So what I'm telling you is this, as I said, this, you now know more about dyslexia than the top professors in your state.
Oh, I believe that for sure. So you still work with families one on one?
I have moved on to mostly, we moved on to a, just, what I ran into is I kept getting all these people that I couldn't help because of financial reasons, and then also I just ran out. So what I did is last year I ran into a very skeptical mom. Her name is Angela. She has a 2-year master's degree. She's the one I told you about, 11 years of experience, and now she's a
Mhm.
homeschooling mom. She was very, very skeptical. And then she found out this has really worked for her. So we moved on to a learning platform called School,
Yeah.
SKOOL.com.
Yeah, I have a school community too.
Yes. Angela is our instructor, and she's there
Okay.
every week. And the problem with my community, with what I do, is it's so absurdly expensive. So just
Mm,
to have any form of interaction, only 500 to $1,000 a month. And unless if I see a couple of newish BMWs in your driveway, that's not going to work. So we lowered it to 147 a month, and we have parents come in and we work with them through that community.
that makes sense.
And it just allows us. We just put up our first one. Where Angela is now working through creating the rest of them. She's working with our more advanced body paragraphs with her son Alfred, who is not dyslexic in the least. He's just a super STEM kid who's 12.
Okay.
And what I told her is I want to make sure that Alfred's ready to go to Texas at Austin, which they kind of live somewhat close to, and just as an option because that's the top school in the southern United States.
Hmm.
Okay. So she's working through all of that. And I can tell you when we creating the course, the course we wanted up by sometime in March. We're just getting it up now because she would ask a question. I would send her back 4,000 words.
Oh Lord.
She would ask
Okay.
me a few more questions. I'd send her back 20,000 words. And then she's going through it. And you know how teachers are when you want to get things just right.
Yeah.
That's Angela. Okay. So it's just I'm making that switch because I worked for the longest time from the Upper East Side kids in Manhattan. They literally don't know what their dads look like
Mm,
because they're working. I'm serious. They're working so much. The moms have Ivy League degrees and they put so much pressure on the kids. So
yeah.
that causes certain problems that I'm not the most happy working with. So I'm just much
Right.
happier working with normal families. And that was the number we figured out that could work for most people.
Yeah. Makes sense. Will you send me a link to get to your school platform so that I can put that in the show notes and that way families
I
can find you?
you check your email. I already did, and I sent you one so you can go in and try it out for yourself.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Love that. Wow. Russell, this has been an incredible last hour and 15 minutes of chatting and learning all about dyslexia. I hope families can understand it. Real quick, give families like a few things to look for in their littler kids, like toddler
Mhm.
age, to see just so that they can see, like, okay, this needs to be on my radar.
Well, what you're going to find is it generally shows up once they're in school, like kindergarten.
Hmm.
And for boys, you're asking them to do something they can't do, and then they have temper tantrums.
Okay.
Okay. Girls tend to just take it. Okay. So what they should do, because at your age, here's what you need to do. This is the book on dyslexia. Okay.
Yeah.
Just contact Google Yale dyslexia and then tell them you have to literally force your school district to do this. They can test for dyslexia for 40, $50. The teacher can do it. You find out they're dyslexic. Then they have reading programs at Yale that if you go from kindergarten through the end of third grade, they will tell you exactly how to do this. All
Okay.
research based, it's just there are other clearinghouses. Yale's the most famous. Then at the end of third grade, they're going to take a test, the reading test in every state. If they pass it, they're going to generally be okay. If they fail it, that's where the 911 emergency comes in for education. But now they have to go to one of those $75,000 a year schools when they should have started in kindergarten. Federal judges call that gross negligence
Yeah.
and force the school districts to pay all the costs to send the kid to one of those private schools.
Okay.
And I have literally heard of school districts that did not want to pay the $1 million because they also have to pay the attorneys
Yeah.
from the plaintiffs. And one school said, "Well, we're not going to pay." Well, the judge has these things called U.S. Marshals,
Mm,
and if they go into their bank, they're paying.
they're paying.
If
Yeah.
that means you don't have sport programs, you don't have sports programs. The whole idea is this should have been done in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Then you only need me to go over some rough edges. But if you don't do this by fourth grade, it's crazy. It's now insanely expensive.
Yeah. Makes sense. Wow. Well, Russell, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you and your wealth of knowledge. And yeah, hopefully families will get a lot out of this. I know I did. I've got, 3 pages of notes here, so this is
Yeah, the
incredible.
best thing to do with us is just go to school, skoo.com, type in dyslexia classes. We have two courses, one for professionals, which you do not want. It's very accelerated. The other one's for parents, and just click on that, and we can work with you from basic sentences all the way through, as I said, submitting an article for publication.
Love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having me.